Welcome to the Flask Webcast, episode number 3. This is going to be a discussion on circular imports, and in particular how they sometimes make the life of the Flask developer hard. Before I begin, I wanted to mention a couple of things. First, for those that haven't heard, I have made an update to the Flask mega tutorial site, which is at courses.miguelgreenberg.com. And this is a completely new site, different from the old site. There's a new pricing structure. And also, for those of you that already have the tutorial that purchased it on the old site, then you can find out how to upgrade and transfer your license to this site by going to this "Where is the old site" link. Here you have all the instructions. Okay. So next, let's go on to the questions. So this is the webcast. There's a few people already there. So if you want to chat, you're free to chat with your with all the people that are watching. If you want to send a question that I'm going to answer at the end of this webcast, what you can do is you can write question, and then ask the question. So for example, how do I ask a question? And of course, you're not going to see anything, but then I have a little thing that's watching the chat, which is webcast.miguelgreenberg.com. And this application captures all those questions that have the question prefix. And you can come here to this website as well and then vote on the questions that you want answered. And then at the end, I'm going to answer them in order from the most voted. But usually, at least the previous couple of times that I did this, the number of questions wasn't that long, and I went through all the questions anyway. But I'll start from the ones that are more interesting to people. So I think that is it for the introduction. So I'm going to start with the main topic. So circular imports, and just as an example, I created a very simple application that doesn't use Flask, but it has a circular import. So here you have first.py, which imports a second function from a module called second. And then this module defines a first function. So we have a first function here and a second function on the other module. So here you see the second module, and this one imports the first function. And so this one wants to import first, defines second, and then both at the end called the two functions. So if I try to run this, let's see, I'm going to go to the correct directory, and there we go. So if I run first, I get an error, and the error, it's basically, I'm going to try to describe it. So if I say Python first.py, then the Python interpreter starts from this line. So it starts parsing first.py, and when it sees the import, it stops parsing this file, so it doesn't continue here, and it jumps to second.py. So in first.py, Python has not seen first function yet. So now it goes on to second.py, and here it gets an import from first function. And in the general case, this will be an error. So Python knows about the first module, but it so far it hasn't seen the part of that module where first function is defined. So it will give you an error. And that's a circular dependency. Now, if you look at this error closely, you're going to see that the error is not on second.py, it is on first.py. And this is a tricky aspect of Python imports that I think it's one of the most important things that you need to be aware of. The expected way in which this will fail, which is that second.py will have the error, will be correct if you had a third module that is the one that you run. So here I added a third module, run.py, that imports first. So now first is not my main module anymore. And if I do python run.py, now I get the expected second.py in line 1 failing with the circular dependency. So the question is, what happened here? Why this is... So if you look at this, this is progressing a little bit more. So it went from, let's see, it went from first to second, and instead of failing like we expected, it went from second to first, and then first failed. And this is something that confuses a lot of people. And the reason for this is that when Python imports your main module, the one that you put in the command, it does not call it with the name of the module. It calls it main, or actually it's dunder main, like this. And you've probably seen this a lot of times at the bottom of a lot of scripts. And this is the name of the main module. So in this example here at the top, where I import first as my main module, I have a main module. So this is dunder main. Python shows it first.py, but internally it's dunder main. So dunder main imports second, and then second imports first. And Python does not understand here that first refers to first.py, which is called dunder main, and instead imports a second copy of first.py with the name first. So now you have dunder main that imported second.py, and then second.py imported first.py in a second copy, and then first.py, the second instance, then fails with the circular dependency when it tries to again go back into second. So the I would say that the best advice I can give you to avoid this particular very confusing issue with imports in Python is to make sure that when you write your application, and more specifically when you do Flask applications, that you eliminate any possibility of having a circular dependency on your main file. And this is exactly what I did with this little example by making my main module a third module that only imports one of the files. So by doing this, then the main module, the dunder main module, is going to be run.py. Run.py just has an import, so it has no problems with circular dependencies, and then everything is okay. So remember that's a very important lesson. Basically make sure that you don't use that your main module is never at risk of having circular dependencies by making it extremely simple. So let's talk about how to solve this. So the problem here is that both modules are importing the other one before they define their own contents. So the standard solution to solve this conflict is to go to the module that runs first. So in this case, it will be first.py, and move the import that grabs stuff from the other module below all the symbols that the second module wants. So we know that second.py needs to import first function. So if we move this import below first function, now we have addressed the circular dependency, because now when so we're going to run from run.py, and run.py is going to import first. First is going to define first function, and then it's going to jump into second function, into second.py. And second.py, when it tries to import first function, will find that it is already defined and everything will work. And just to demonstrate, if I say run.py now, both first.py and second.py are able to call these example functions. So I mentioned that you should avoid having any risk of secret dependencies on your first module. And see what happens if I say, like the previous time, if I start this from first.py, we still have an error. This, even though this solves the secret dependency between first.py and second.py, there's still a problem, because first.py is called dunder main, and then dunder main imports second, and second wants to import first. It doesn't know about dunder main, so then you still have a circular dependency. So avoid this. Okay. So that's the generic introduction. So what I was planning to do for the rest of this webcast is to show you a Flask application that is a single file, and I'm going to go step by step, breaking it up into pieces, and doing, migrating it basically to the recommended file structure where you have multiple packages and modules. So the application that I decided to use for this, it's so here is app.py. So this is an application that I created as an example for an old blog post on database soft deletes. So the topic of the application does not really matter. It shows a way to delete entries in the database without really deleting them, with just keeping them, with the marked as deleted. So that really doesn't matter, but I think this is a good example because it has a number of things that you will have in larger applications. So there's a utility class that implements some additional features for database queries. There are database models, and then there's an API with a bunch of routes. So we're going to take this and break it apart into a lot of pieces. So the first thing that I do, first I should say that I always start my projects, my Flask projects, as a single file. So that this is how all my projects begin, and then I migrate them into a more flexible structure as the project grows. For projects that are very simple, I'm fine keeping them in a single file. So I keep making changes to the project, and this is something that I always tell people, that it's good that you are prepared to migrate your application to a different structure, but by applying small changes progressively as you grow your application. So what I do, I'm going to switch to this directory, and I'm going to create a second terminal here. So I'm gonna run the application, and before I begin a migration to a different structure, what I always make sure that I have a way to test the application. That's very important, because I'm going to be moving code from between different files, and it's very easy to make mistakes. I'm pretty sure while you see me do this, there's going to be several mistakes. I'm going to find those errors with my tests, and that is how I'm going to be efficient at fixing them. So for the tests, I have two things that I combined into a Tox profile. So I have a Tox project. For those that don't know, Tox is it's a very useful test runner. So you can define what tests you want to run in a tox.ini file, and then you say tox and oops, I have an error. I don't have the environment activated, and let's see. There we go. So Tox runs a couple things here, and the output is maybe a little bit noisy, but it first runs Flake 8, which is a linter. This detects any syntax errors or any style problems in your Python code. And then the second pass is some unit tests, or actually some integration tests, that basically send requests, and you can see that the application running on the left received those requests. And this set of tests basically create a user and then get the list of users, and then create a message for that user and shows that the message was received. So this basically exercises most of the endpoints in this API. Then at the end, if you see all green, that means that everything is working. So we have a working application, and now I'm going to start breaking it apart. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to separate the configuration. And this isn't, usually this is not a problem with circular dependencies, but I like to keep the configuration separate, because many times the configuration needs to change between development and deployment or production, and having it in the code, it's kind of inconvenient. It's easier if you separate your configuration into a file, into a standalone file. So I'm going to take these two configuration items. I'm going to create a config.py module and add them. Here I'm using this base there, so I'm going to move that too. And then I need to import OS. And I'm for this project, I'm going to use the standard variable format for configuration. You could use a class. Many times I use a class as well, but for this one I'm going to keep it simple, so just variables. So there's my config, and then I can go back to app.py. Since I am not going to, or actually I'm going to leave those there. Here I'm going to replace this with app config from object, and the object is going to be this module, which I need to import. So there we go. So now, so this is going to reload on its own. I'm going to run the Flake 8 pass, and this is going to demonstrate. Oh, look at that, it didn't find any mistakes. What's going on here? Oh, I guess that's interesting. So base there is not used. It should have flagged that. But anyway, Flake 8 did not detect that. So I'm going to remove them by hand and try it again. Make sure that everything remains valid. So what I'm going to do is run the full test now and make sure that the requests are also okay and everything continues to work. So now we have the configuration separated from the application. So now I'm going to start doing the important changes, and since I'm going to start creating additional modules, having them here at the top level is not really a great idea. I always like to have my configuration at the top level, because this is a file that I usually change. Sometimes I have multiple versions of it. but really for applications that have multiple modules, I prefer to have all those modules inside a package. So I'm going to start then by creating a folder, a directory where I'm going to put the refactored application. And you've seen me many times. I call this app, and this confuses some people. So today, just to show you that you can, I'm going to call it my app. So this is going to be a different name, and you can call this with the name of your application, well, whatever it is. So I created my app folder, and then I'm going to take this app.py, the entire application minus the config, and drag it inside. So now it's inside the package. And I'm going to rename it to Dunder init. So in case you don't know, this is a special name. When you have a package, which is basically a directory with Python code inside, the Dunder init file is special because it's automatically imported when you import the package. So this is now, the entire application now is the my app package. So what I've lost by doing this is the main script in the top level. So what I need to do now is create a new top level script. So I'm going to create a new file. I could call it app.py, or something that I prefer when I have a bigger application that has a complex structure is to call it whiskey.py, which is kind of similar to Django. So now I have a whiskey.py, and here I'm going to say from my app import app. So if you look in init.py, I have my Flask application there, and this is what I'm importing here. So let's see if that change is working. You can see here that the Flask reloader, when you make that kind of big change, when you move stuff around, sometimes gets confused. And you can see here that it did not reload. So I'm going to rerun it. And now let's run everything, all the tests. So if you look at the integration tests, they're working. So the application is still functional, but we have some problems in the linter. We have an unused import in whiskey.py and a missing new line. Okay, I'll fix that. So that's the new line. And of course, in this case, Flake 8 is saying that I'm importing something that I'm not using, but I need to do that because this module is going to be used by Flask. So I'm going to tell Flake 8 to ignore this by adding a no QA flag. And if I repeat the test, now I am all green. There we go. So, okay, now we have a package, and the package has everything in a single file. So we should start breaking this up into parts. So something that is very common is to move your database models to a separate file. So let's start with that. I'm going to create a models.py, and this is going to have all my database stuff. This is special. This is not a database model, but it is related to the database. So I'm going to keep it with the models.py, with this new module where I have all my database stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the three classes, so the two models and the query class, and just paste them here. And this is the first instance where circular dependencies can make your life miserable. So the trick to avoid problems, as I said before, you need to move the import on the module that runs first, which in this case is going to be init.py, you need to put it after all the things that the other module needs. And since the contents of this new module, the models.py, is here, the best place to put the import when we eliminate all this is right here. So I'm going to remove these classes that I copied, and I'm going to import from my app import models right there. And since this is going to also be a Flake 8 violation, I'm going to flag it as OK with the no QA comment. So now I imported my models. Actually, this is not right. I need to import user and message, because those are actually they're using the routes below. So instead of importing the whole module, I'm going to import specifically these two that I need. So there we go. Now on this one, we need to add some imports. So this base query needs to be imported. I'm going to copy that. It's this one. And here we only need base query. And I'm sure there's more, but instead of wasting time trying to find them by hand, I'm going to run Flake 8, and it's going to give me all the errors, lots of them. And this is fine. This does not worry me in the least. There's a lot of references in models.py for DB. There's a 3 for URL4. Okay, so let's start with that. So we need DB URL4. So from Flask import URL4, and then DB is from our application. So from my app import DB. There we go. And then here at the bottom we have under init we have base query is an unused import now because I moved it to models.py. So here base query needs to go. Let's try again. And there we go. Now it's fixed, and now we have an application with two modules. Let's make sure that the tests all work. That's odd. Let's try again. I think it might have been, yeah, there we go. I think this reloader didn't restart in time. I was too early after I modified the file. So anyway, everything is working. So now we have models.py separate from the application. In some cases, people don't want to have all the database models in a single Python module. If you have a lot of models, then this file could end up being pretty big. So I'm going to keep going, and instead of staying with models.py, I'm going to create a package. So this module, now I'm going to refactor it into a package. So let's make a models subdirectory, and like I did before, I'm going to drag this into the package and rename it into under init.py. And let's see. So now I think let's give it a try. I think everything should continue to work. Once again, this apparently did not restart. There we go. Let's try it and see what happens. Yeah, so everything continues to work. Good. I'm good at this. So what we can do now is we can break this big dunder init into one file per database model. So I'm going to add a user.py and a message.py. So I'm going to take user, I'm going to remove it from here and say from my app models user import user. I'm going to replace it with an import that's equivalent, and then I'm going to put it here. And then I'm going to do the same thing with message. So message disappears from here and it's replaced in the same place with an import. And in this way, I completely avoided any problems with circular dependencies. So I need to resolve some imports. We definitely need db here, and we need URL4, which is right here. So from Flask, import URL4, and start with that. And we need the same thing in the other model. There we go. This class references that other, the query subclass. So I'm going to, let's see. Yeah, I'll put it in a separate. So I'm going to do a query.py and move this one too. So now we have everything in their own module, and this is going to be from my app models.query import query. I think it was soft delete. I'm not sure I remember that name. I'll fix it if it's not right. Query with soft delete. There we go. So you see now init.py is empty. This query with soft delete is used in here, user.py, so I'm going to put it here as well. And now notice that init.py has no code now. So really, after all this refactoring, I don't need anything here. This can be an empty file, and you've probably seen in many applications that the under init files are empty because there's nothing to do there. And this is usually applications that that import every symbol, every class or variable from their actual module, which is a practice that that I really like. So I'm going to check. I bet there are still some problems. Yes. Message by needs a couple blank lines. Okay. That's Flake 8, enforcing PEP 8. And that's it, I guess. So the reloader this time worked. So let's try to send some requests and see if it works. And it doesn't. Once again, I did it in the middle of a restart. Let's do it again. Okay. Now, let's start that. Oh, I think I know what it is. Right. What did I forget? I forgot here to import. It's interesting that this isn't flagged as an error. So these imports need to be updated now. Where's the error? That's interesting. Oh, I know, it's in the debugger. I don't have. I'm not running a web browser client, so these errors go to the debugger. Message, and both need to have no QA. Oops, this is lowercase. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna restart just in case. Well, okay, Great. So what can I do here? I'm gonna just run a web browser. Oh, no app. Right. So this is interesting. It's interesting that the error. This is something I need to. Oh, okay. Yeah, I actually I wasn't paying attention. The errors here. Okay. Yeah, I'm distracted as you can see. Okay, fine. So it's whiskey.py. This needs to be updated. So here's the error. Cannot import name from app models query. Import query with soft delete. Oh, this is missing imports here. From import. What was it? There we go. Let's try again. It reloaded. So we have undefined name dv in query.py. So we need from my app import db. There we go. Let's see. No new line. Let's do it. So flake 8. Now it's fine. And this guy. Let's see. Continue to have errors. Interesting that this is something I need to look into with Flask, that the error does not appear here. Cannot import base query. Oh, what was this? I got that import wrong. So let's see. Oh, Flask. Okay, fine. Yeah. There we go. That's Flask SQL Alchemy. Let's see. Phew, there we go. Okay, so so now we have the application and we have a fully fledged models package or sub-package with all the models in their own little Python module. And this is now very flexible, and you can continue growing this way. And you see that I have a bunch of errors, but none of them were circular imports, which is the important thing. By using this technique of replacing code with an import, when you extract it into a separate module, you avoid that problem completely. So how are we doing on time? 9:45. Okay, I'm going to keep going a little bit, and then let me check how are we doing on questions. We have no questions. Okay, I'll keep going. If you have any questions, go ahead and write them in the chat. In case you missed the beginning, you need to go to the chat. The link is in the description of the YouTube video, and you need to write your question with the prefix question : So if you write question : and then the question, then it's going to magically show up here. And then when I'm done with the presentation, I'm going to answer them. But if there are no questions, great, no problem. Okay, so the next step that I will do here, if I wanted to refactor this, is to take the API routes, all these routes, and move them into a separate module. I'm going to start with a module. So I'm going to create a, I'm going to call it API.py, and then I'm going to grab all these, remove them from here, replace with an import in the same place from my app API. Let's see, import API. I'm going to import everything from that because Flask needs to see those. So, and then I'm going to copy them in the new API module. So here I'm going to need a bunch of things. I'm going to need app from my app. I'm going to need the models. Actually, user, import user from my app models, message, import message, and we need URL4. I can see it there. JSONify request. Here's request, and let's get the remaining ones through Flake. Okay, so we need DB, and then we have request, URL4, and JSONify are unused in Dunder init. So Dunder init, JSONify, URL4, and request, they go away. And here in API, we need also DB, which I forgot to include. Let's see. And now, according to the linter, we're good. This apparently restarted, so I'm going to go ahead and run the whole set. And yeah, it restarted at the same time. Okay, let's do it one more time. There we go. Okay, so now we have all the API routes in a separate package. Actually, I'm sorry, in a separate module. I could do the same thing that I did with the models and make it into a sub-package. That it will work exactly in the same way. So I'm not going to repeat myself. But what I'm going to do is something that you've seen in many larger applications, which is that they don't define the application here as a global variable. They use the application factory pattern, which provides some benefits, especially for testing. Is very convenient. Instead of having a single application that's a global variable, to be able to create an application on demand. So each test can have its own application created, and basically that allows the tests to run, each test to run in isolation with a brand new application. So what I'm going to do as a first step, basically what you need to do to create to migrate to the application factory pattern is to have all the references to your application instance removed from the global scope, which is basically these are all these references need to go. And the solution that Flask offers for that is to replace the application with a blueprint, which is basically a container for routes that then you can attach to the application later on when the application exists. So I'm going to create an API blueprint. I'm going to call it API. And then I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to replace app.route with API.route. All of them. There we go. So now we have a blueprint. I'm going to import blueprint from Flask. And this is now a blueprint. So it's completely independent from the application. In fact, I shouldn't need to import application anymore because it's not used at all. So when I go back to here, now I need to attach the blueprint to the application so that all the routes that are defined in it are exposed. And so here's one more time a very common place where you have circular dependencies. So you see that this module requires, for example, DB, right? So DB is here. So we need to make sure that when we import the API blueprint, we do it after DB is defined. And that is going to prevent the circular dependency. If you put it here, then it's not going to work. So I'm going to put it right after the extensions. So from my app.api import API, and here I called, so I have api.py, and inside it I have an API module. So I have API and API. So these are different. So to avoid confusion, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this API blueprint when I import it. So in this module, I'm going to refer to it as API blueprint. And now what I'm going to do is say app register blueprint API blueprint. And there we go. That should do it. Now we have an API blueprint. Let's check that this step is all working. Okay, module level import not at top of file, right? It's this one. I need to make an exception because it's okay. I know it's okay. Okay, so that's working. And now let's try the whole thing. I'm not sure it did again. Every time I start the tests for the first time, the reloader acts up and tries to reload the app. Oh, okay, we have an error. So, okay, could not build URL. So this is a URL4 error. And that's correct. I forgot. So if you look, so now all these routes are in a blueprint. So when you say URL4, this needs to be prepended with the blueprint name. And I forgot about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another replace. Actually, not this one. Standard replace. And I'm going to replace URL4 and the first quote. And that is going to be URL4 API dot. And that is going to, I think, add the prefix everywhere. Yeah. And then I need to do the same thing in the models, which also have URL4. So there and there. So I'm going to save, and save. And let's see what happens. Okay, so now everything is working, and we have an API blueprint with very little effort. So what I'm going to do next is create the application factory. So here under init for the my app package, I have everything in the global scope, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to just put it inside a function. The function is going to return the application, and what I need to handle the extensions. The extensions in Flask, even when you use the application factory pattern, they remain a global in the global scope, but you have to change the way you initialize them, because you don't have the application in the global scope. You just initialize them with no arguments, and then inside the application factory function you say init app, and you pass the same arguments that before you passed in the constructor. And let's see if that does it. Nope. And once again, I'm not getting the error reported here in the console. I'm gonna have to find out what's going on with that. Flask should show the error here. But anyway, I'm going to use the trick of, oh, right, yeah, okay, fine, yes. So now I change the create app, so now the whiskey.py, the top level file that Flask is using to run the application, is now invalid. So this needs to import create app, and I need to create my application by invoking the application factory. And probably Flake8 is not gonna like new line. That's all the, yeah, there we go. Okay, and this time the reloader did not restart, so I'm gonna restart it by hand just in case. And let's see. And there we go. So now we at every step of the way I make sure that the application continues to work, and now we have a fairly good, in my opinion, structure with a blueprint for the API, a models package that has each model in its own a models package with each model in its own module, and also any additional database specific utilities like this class that I'm using in this application, also in their own submodule. And there we go. That is all it took, and not a single time I had problems with circular dependencies by following the good practice of not putting the imports at the top, but putting them in the place where you basically where you remove the code that you're moving to the second to the other module. So anyway, I could keep going. I don't think I'm going to, because I don't think I have anything new to show. But if I wanted to keep going, what I would do is I would make this API a sub package instead of a submodule. So the same thing that I did with models, where I moved models.py into the models package and renamed it Dunder init. I will do the same thing, API folder, and then move API.py into it as Dunder init, and then start breaking up from there. Hey, we got a question. Okay, so yeah, I think I'm gonna stop. If you have any questions, if there's anything that I didn't cover, please let me know, or better yet, write the question, and then I'll go ahead and answer it. But yeah, it looks like this isn't going to take a lot of time, because there's only one question. Okay. So what do I think? I'm gonna switch to full screen. What do you think about Flask RESTful extensions? I'm okay with them. I'm not sure if you mean specifically the extension that's named Flask RESTful, or if you're talking in general as in terms of the few extensions that are out there that work for that help create APIs. So what I prefer these days is to write my APIs directly in Flask. I don't find what these extensions do that useful, to be honest. So for example, speaking specifically about Flask RESTful, so the things that are nice that Flask RESTful does, at least one thing is that it can validate your payloads when the client sends something. It basically, you define a schema for your resource, and then the extension validates it for you. And that's a great feature. But I prefer to use Marshmallow, which is a standalone library that does that and does it really well. So basically, I use Flask and then I import Marshmallow standalone. There's not even a Flask extension for it, and that's how I validate my payloads. And with everything else that these extensions do, I always find a little bit easier for me to just import a Python package that helps with that area, and not basically get a single extension that basically made the choice for me of which validation package I should use, and so on. So yeah, I'm fine with them. I blogged about Flask RESTful specifically in the past because at some point I used it. But yeah, these days I don't really see a need to use an extension. So anyway, that's my point of view. But I have nothing wrong to say about those extensions. So next question: at what point do you decide your application is large enough to be worth breaking up as you've done? Yeah, that's a good question. So if I find myself scrolling up and down through a large file, trying to find something, then that's a good indication. You can go by a number of lines. Some people impose a limit on number of lines per module. I don't do that myself. I just it becomes a nuisance for me to navigate the file, and that's the point where I say, okay, I had it. I'm gonna go break this up, and all the steps that I did today, just for the sake of a demonstration, I did them all one after another. But I don't really do that when I do it for real. When I do it for real, I make each step like the ones I showed today. I made just one, and then I keep going, and then eventually, again, I start finding that I need to do one more thing, and then I keep migrating my applications that way, and that works because I always have my tests. I have tests that I can use to make sure that I'm not breaking anything. And that's the reason why doing all this type of surgery on your project is okay. It basically relies on having a good test set that you can use to make sure that you're not breaking stuff. Yeah, I think that's all I can say about that. I don't really have a rule of thumb. It's just when it bugs me to work with a large file, I break it. So Okay, and we have one more question. Which library do you use to handle JSON web tokens? So the one that you use is PyJWT. Actually, I don't even know any others. I'm sure there are some, but yeah, I've been using PyJWT. I believe there's a Flask extension for it. The Flask extension that wraps PyJWT. I've never used the Flask extension. I don't think there's a need. Part of me liking Flask is that it's a minimalistic framework, and for that reason, even though there are cases where a Flask extension makes sense, there are many other cases where really a Flask extension does not really add a lot to the normal to the standalone package. So I think PyJWT is one of those examples. It's pretty good. It's also very simple, and yeah, I've never tried. I don't even know, what other things the Flask extension can do, because I always import PyJWT, on its own. And one more question: would it be possible to have a webcast on testing in Flask, like how you use talks today? Yeah, sure, definitely. That's actually that would be a good topic. So what I was thinking for next month, so one I haven't decided yet, but one that I was thinking an interesting topic was to show how to use Flask with an IDE. So today you saw me that I used, well, actually, I don't know if you, I don't think I mentioned this. I'm gonna switch back to my screen. So this thing that I'm using here is Visual Studio Code, and I refrain myself from using the IDE features of this application. Visual Studio Code is actually pretty good. It's a pretty good IDE. It supports Python natively, and you can do a lot of things without leaving the IDE. Like, for example, all these things that I did in the terminal, you could do them from a panel here in this application. I decided not to, because I wanted to make sure this demo was accessible to everyone, regardless of the tools that you use. I didn't want to be seen as, you have to use Visual Studio Code, because I don't think you have to. But what I was thinking a good topic would be to show how to use Flask, and specifically how to run the application, the Flask run command, which is tricky when you use an IDE. And I was thinking that the two that I was going to demonstrate were going to be Visual Studio Code and PyCharm. So that's one topic that I was considering. And then the other topic that I was considering is going over the new features that came with Flask 1.0, the Flask 1.0 release from what was it, a month ago or so. So those two, and I think doing one on unit testing will be interesting as well. So those are the three options. At some point I'm going to decide which one of the three, but definitely I'll get to the three of them in time. So let's go back here, and okay, looks like there are no more questions. Yes, there are. No, this is a chat. Okay, so yeah, there are no more questions, so I guess we're done for today. I hope that this was useful as a demo on how to break the application. If you try this with your own application and have problems, let me know. I'm always interested in finding what people find difficult. Definitely the takeaway for me from today is that I need to investigate why there are why there are errors that Flask does not report when it reloads. For some reason I didn't notice that. Of course, you can tell that this was I didn't practice a lot. I just came here and started breaking up this app like I do, many apps. But yeah, I didn't notice that this I'm thinking it might be Flask 1, the version 1 of Flask, which I'm using today. That has a problem with reporting errors when some types of errors. I don't even know why some were reported and some were not. I need to find that out. So this was good for me, I guess, because I have now a bug to chase as well in Flask. I noticed that most big applications these days, like YouTube or Facebook, are in the form of API. I don't understand what that means. Sorry. Yeah, I don't understand that question. If you have 5 seconds to explain it better by submitting a new question. If not, yeah, I don't know. We can take it offline if you want to explain better. So going once, going twice, and it went. Okay. So thank you very much for joining me today. I'm going to be working on new content. So I recommend that you keep an eye on courses.miguelgreenberg.com because I'm hoping at some point I'm gonna drop some new stuff there. Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. So the question was that I noticed that most big applications these days, like YouTube or Facebook, are in the form of APIs. How do you go about writing a streaming API like YouTube to be utilized by a mobile app? I guess as an example, I can refer you to my. I wrote a couple of blog posts on streaming video, and that works with mobile as well. So I mean, if you want to learn how to use the streaming support in Flask, that would be a good way. So look up in my blog the video streaming articles. There's two, and you should probably read them in order. There was one that I made maybe 2-3 years ago, and then an update that I made not too long ago. And once you learn the technique, then you don't have to use it for video. You can use it for other things. For example, something that I do that I don't think I've ever showed is if you need to run a command in the server, then I stream the output of that command to the web browser. So you can start a command from the browser and then watch the output of the command in real time in your browser, and that's also done with streaming. So I've written about that. So there's definitely something that's something that Flask can do very well. Okay, thank you very much for joining me, and I guess I will see you in about a month, and look for a Twitter announcement when I know the final date for this. So thank you very much,